Hey, everybody, and welcome back to whatever this is called, the podcast where we dig too deep into the things that probably should have just stayed small talk. I am Scott Taylor. I'm here, as always, by my side with Steven Garcia. Steve, how you doing?
What's happening, everyone? I haven't been this excited to do something since I went and saw the Bacon Brothers without Kevin Bacon. That's how excited I am.
That's pretty excited.
Yeah.
Pretty excited.
What can I say? I'm whelmed.
Well, today, what Stephen is whelmed with is Stephen King. We're diving into Stephen King, the man, the myth, the endless stack of adaptations, from the classics that actually nailed his vibe to the weird ones that felt like they were made after reading the back cover of the book. We're going to hit on it all. The good, the bad, the creepy kids, the haunted cars, and yes, the killer clowns. If it got Stephen King's name stamped on it, or Richard Bachman, I guess, it's fair game today. So that's what we're talking about, just in general. You know, the movies, the adaptations, the books, everything Stephen King, just out into the atmosphere here. Because we talk a lot about, it comes up a lot, right? Like on Gotta See My Friends, you just did Stand By Me.
Yeah.
And we've talked about the upcoming Welcome to Derry series coming out.
Oh, that's
We've
right.
talked about that sort of stuff. So it's woven itself into a lot of what we've already done, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, he kind of revolutionized the kind of way we present horror in the culture. I think before that it was very campy and very like out of this world type of silly and over the top a little bit, which he still has those in kind of his adaptations and his books, but especially the adaptations, especially like the movies and stuff. I think it begs for that, you know, that kind of representation on screen, because these are really kind of dark. It's like dark horror. It's usually presented in good versus evil and the kind of nature of evil that. So I mean, even in his kind of monstrous type of books, there's still a human element into all of that, which is, I think, for me, that's what makes it even more scary. I remember reading some of his early books, and you're reading the books, and you're like, oh, I need to turn a light on or something, you know. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, he's really kind of. I don't know what the word is, kind of bled himself into the culture, and kind of like I said, it changed the way we kind of looked at horror movies from that. So yeah, I'm a big fan, huge fan.
Yeah, the earliest that I remember is Stephen King. My friend Chris was a couple years older than me, and he would, like, this sounds weird, pay me to do stuff. Not in a bad way. But to entice me.
Hey, you were young.
This isn't going the way I thought it would go. He would compensate. No, he would trade me goods for services. No, he would pay me. He would be like, "Hey, read some of this book or read this book, and if you do, I'll pay for your movie ticket the next time that we're going to the movies or whatever."
Oh, so that's how I get you to do stuff. Okay.
Oh, that's what you do. You just lure me into movie tickets. And so the first thing was a Stephen King book. It was Skeleton Crew.
Oh.
And he had flagged a couple stories in there. I think it was The Mist, and I think it was Here, There Be Tigers. He flagged 3 or 4 stories in there. There's like, read these ones. These are really good ones. And that was my first foray into Stephen King, the books.
Yeah.
I'm sure I saw Pennywise. I saw it and Tim Curry Pennywise somewhere along the way. But that was probably my first entrance.
Yeah, I think mine was it. Reading, or well, no. I should say 85. That came out 86, 85, 86. So this is 6th grade. Yeah, I think my first book was it, if you can believe it. And I never really finished it. I got close to the end. And I always told myself, well, I'll go back and read the end. But I never did. But ended up seeing the movie, the TV movie series, and then the movies. And that one was one that scared me. Then after that, I went to Salem's Lot and then Pet Sematary. And, I mean, like I was saying before, it's the way that he writes and what he writes about, especially in those stories, is about just kind of the evil that kind of that can get in, like in Salem's Lot's small town, but this vampire comes in a small town, and then in Pet Sematary, it's just the themes of like grief and death and mortality, morality and mortality. Yeah, he's just a great writer. I mean, he's a little on the descriptive heavy side. He really likes to talk about this small town, the everyday occurrences in small towns, and in order to get to the good stuff, he's always setting up that kind of the base of. So if it's a small town, he's talking about this farmer drives by at 4, he likes to say hi to his neighbors, and then he goes, and it's maybe a whole chapter on just how he starts his day, or and so you have to kind of be the kind of reader that will kind of, it's a slow burn is what I'm trying to say. And so if you can get through that and know that that's coming at some point in the story, then you can read a lot, because that's what I've heard about a lot of people saying, no, well, it's just a slow burn, it's too slow of a burn, or once I got past this, then the story kind of just kicked off really fast. And that's usually his MO when he writes. So yeah.
Man, it like I forget the character's name that unalives himself when he gets the phone call as the adult.
Oh yeah.
But in the book, it's like it doesn't. It goes back like to when he was in like college and meeting his wife, and just every iteration that happened with the wife and her father, and just this building and building of it, and you're never sure like what's important in this and what's just backstory.
Yeah, it was Stan Uris. Yeah,
and so there's all this backstory there, and you're like, what is this leading to? What if this is important? What do I need to remember for the future of the story versus just kind of wash over me?
Yeah.
And another thing he's not great at is writing women, teenage women specifically, and that seems to be a big hurdle with his.
Yeah, I think that he tends to kind of, I don't know if fantasize is the right word, but he tends to sort of, it's this weird disconnect once he starts writing about women, and it's like it kind of sometimes almost takes you out of the story. But yeah, that's a good point. I forgot about saying that, because there's always this, especially in it.
Mm-hmm.
Jeez, sorry. In it, that I mean the scene. Oh yeah, I mean I don't even want to talk about it, but it's like, yeah, it's just a weird thing that he has. I guess I don't know if he's better at it now. I haven't read any of his. I think I stopped reading after, let's see, in the 90s. I think my last. I mean, I have a few of his books, his short story books. Like I think I do have Skeleton Crew, but then I also have Different Seasons. I think I have that book too, as well. But junior high and the beginning of high school, that's when I was really reading a lot of his stuff. I went actually over to his rival, Dean Koontz. I read a couple of his books just because I had to cleanse the palate. And then it was like, well, Dean has his own kind of style that's really out there, which is kind of, they become rivals, I suppose, because they write the same kind of books. But yeah, I lean towards Stephen King more, though.
Now we might as well just dive in.
Yeah,
let's get to some favorites here. What do you got?
Let's see. Let me get down to my. Well, I have Creep Show. That's. I'm gonna talk about it from like kind of least to favorite.
Mm-hmm.
But I still. This is still like one of my faves. It's an anthology horror film. It's got 5 stories plus like this bookend, and it's got little inserts of this overall story about this kid who has a domineering kind of father and kind of makes him go to bed, and he throws out his comic. And then the comic is, this movie is kind of like a love letter to the EC horror comics, like Tales from the Crypt and the Vault of Horror. And I had a few of those when I was a kid. I never really I should have been, because I love them, but I never really collected them. But, so it was written by Stephen King, and it was directed by George A. Romero. And the cast is Hal Holbrook, Adrienne Barbeau, Leslie Nielsen, Ted Danson, Ed Harris. Plus, Stephen King is in one of the stories, The Lonesome Death of Jordy Verrill. And it's really cool. It's really campy. It's really over the top kind of acting, and they present it as a kind of like a comic book. So when they change scenes, it'll have the panels, the comic panels, and it'll just like rise up to the next scene, and then it'll go in, and then the panels disappear, and it's really cool transitions. It's set up like a comic book, and when I was a kid, I would rent this all the time because it was one of those things that traumatized you as a kid. But for some reason, you just kept. The one that scared me the most was called The Crate. And the premise is a janitor discovers a mysterious crate under a staircase containing a ravenous monster. And it's from like the early 1900s. And a professor kind of sees it. It kills the janitor. And he runs to this guy's house, this other professor. And he has a really domineering wife. Oh, why don't you just go? Oh, you're such a loser. You know, that kind of wife. And he always has these fantasies about killing her in front of everybody, and everybody's like clapping at him because she's just talking away at the whatever. So yeah, he takes his wife to there. The creature ends up killing his wife, and he dumps it in her lake. And so it's just really, really fun, really campy, and it's one of my favorites. That's my first one. How about you?
I didn't really group them together.
Okay.
As far as like least to highest, but
Yeah.
one I want to throw out there is it's a lesser known one, I would say, 1912. It's on Netflix. Have you seen that one?
No.
So it's about a farmer and his wife, and there's all these rats in the wall that are kind of tormenting him. It's really good. It's about like stuff continuing to eat at you, and it's kind of like the Telltale Heart, right, where it's just constantly ticking in the background, and you can't get rid of it. So it's kind of that type of story, but it's easily accessible because I think it's still on Netflix too.
I'm gonna watch it.
But it's I forget who starred in it. Do a little Googling here while we discuss this.
Yeah.
So 1912. Oh, sorry, 1922. Why am I saying 1912?
Oh, okay.
Gosh, man.
Well, it's got a 2 in it.
It's got a 2. It got 2 2s. Thomas Jane. It's Thomas Jane again.
Okay.
Also, we'll talk about The Mist, but it's got Thomas Jane in it. And it came out in 2017.
Oh, wow.
It's about a farmer in Nebraska with his wife and their son. I won't ruin any of it.
Okay.
But it's a great story. It's not as horror-y. There's no clowns jumping out at you or anything like that. No killer cars. But it's got a good solid storyline there.
Ah. Yeah, I got a killer cars on kind of the group of what I want to talk about, which is Christine. And I read the book probably around the same time I read all the rest of his stuff. I can't remember too much of it. This is a case too where the movie kind of fills in the blanks of what I can't remember from the story, the actual written story. But that one was always one. That was kind of a one. That's Christine for me is is kind of a Gonna See My Friends podcast kind of thing where I watched it a bunch of times. I rented it so many times when I was a kid, just because of at the time I didn't really understand kind of like metaphor, I suppose, or whatever. Because sorry, man, I have this dry throat. And so I love this movie just because of the silliness of it. It also had Cougar from Top Gun before he was Cougar, but I always liked. I think his name was John Stockwell, and he was the lead in this with the other guy. I can't remember. Let me see if let me do a little investigating here. So it was John Stockwell. Oops, Christine. And Keith Gordon. Keith Gordon went on to do Back to School with Rodney Dangerfield, and it was just this silly story about a car. Keith Gordon buys this car, and it's really kind of run down, and the owner's like, yeah, found my brother dead in it, and always called it, treated it like an old lady. And it was just silly. It was this car that's possessed, and he ends up possessing the guy that owns it, and the car ends up killing all the bullies and killing everybody in the town, and the police kind of get wind of it and trying to track him down. So yeah, that was my favorite. Did you ever see that movie?
I think I did. It was a long time ago, though.
Yeah,
that would have been like a sleepover type movie.
Yeah, that's
for
exactly.
Sure.
Yeah, that's how. Excuse me. That's how I always frame it as like one of those sleepover movies. Harry Dean Stanton was the cop that was kind of trying. which is great. And it was directed by John Carpenter too, so you get the double whammy of Stephen King and John Carpenter. And when you watch a John Carpenter film, for me anyways, you can put it up against Escape from New York and Big Trouble in Little China, and The Thing, just the way in terms of how it's filmed and his cinematographer. And so, yeah, it was always a favorite of mine.
Yeah, I think the first full book that I ever read of Stephen King was The Stand, and that's a chunk. Wow. That's a chonker right there. That can kill.
I started that many times.
It can kill a thick spider if you drop it on it. So
especially
I remember
the paperbacks.
Yeah,
back in the day, the paperbacks were like this small, and they would be like this thick.
Yeah. The spine on them would be like solid 6 inches long.
Yeah.
It was a thick book, and I remember reading that probably at the behest of Chris as well. But I think it was around when the miniseries was coming on air.
Yep. Yeah.
And so I think I read it first and then watched the miniseries, of course, opening up with Don't Fear the Reaper, classically. Yeah. But that was 94 that miniseries came out, and then they did it again in 2020. They did another miniseries. There was a similar book, not by Stephen King, called Swan Song, that was in the same light, kind of apocalyptic, one side's good, one side's evil, trying to find their like leader type of story. And I remember reading that and liking that more than I liked the Stand's book. But I remember the miniseries, we were watching that and being all like super excited for it.
Yeah, The Stand was, I think when it came out on ABC, it was kind of like they made it out to be, they promoted it as kind of like a, I don't know, they just made a big deal out of it. I don't know how to say it. Because it had Gary Sinise. It had a lot of good players in it. Ed Harris is at the beginning, and anything he's in, it's always good. But Gary Sinise was in it, I think, because he had done, I think at that time, he had done Forrest Gump and Apollo 13. So he was, and of Mice and Men. And so he was kind of a big guy. I remember watching that and not understanding. I thought it was silly when I first saw that miniseries. I've now come to love it, but when I first saw it, I just felt like, and this happens with a lot of Stephen King stuff, is that he introduces kind of like this big event to kind of like normal type people, and I think sometimes I feel like it could be a little overwhelming, especially in the first watch when he adapts his stuff to TV or movies. And I always have to remind myself, like, oh, this is Stephen King, and this is going to be kind of fantastical. Especially the introduction of Randall Flagg. Like, I just never understood, how he kind of comes to, if he was just a kind of a regular person before and made all this stuff happen. I don't know. I still really don't understand it, but I love watching it because it's got Rob Lowe in it. So it's cool. What did you think about it?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I would have been a teen at that time, and so it would have been like, cool, look at this kind of darker stuff that's on broadcast TV.
Yeah.
That would have been my draw to it. Like, oh, look at this. They're going to do this. This is going to be cool. Man, it's probably the first time that I was like, oh, I read this book and now I'm going to see like an adaptation of that book new.
Yeah. That's, it was really cool, man. And I did, when a lot of the good side dies, spoiler alert, but when they get blown up and stuff, I couldn't believe it. That almost took me out because sometimes, when they kill off a main character or something, and you're like, what? And, like, for instance, like, To Live and Die in L.A., everybody says that's William Friedkin's one of his classic movies. And it is. For me, it is a large part. And I don't know if you've seen it or not, but it's extremely violent. And at the end, spoiler alert again, at the end, everybody kind of dies. And I was like, oh, I just didn't get that. And so that was my first initial response to this. Is like, I don't get why they did that, So, but again, I've come to love it. So I think I have it on one of my hard drives too.
Did you ever see, it's another streaming one, I guess, the 2019's In the Tall Grass on Netflix.
No. I think the last one I saw was 1963. I think that was the last thing I've seen from Stephen King. That's new. But what's this one called? In the Grass?
This one's called In the Tall Grass.
In the Tall Grass. Okay.
It's based on a novella done by Stephen King and Joe Hill.
Okay.
So they wrote it together.
Is that his son?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That is his son. And he's gone on to do lots of great stuff. Lots of kind of carrying the... I don't want to say carrying the torch because he definitely has his own voice when it comes to that stuff. But this one, it was a little different because it's horror-y, but it's timey-wimey. It's basically a time loop story.
Oh, okay.
It's these people are driving by the tall grass. Imagine that in the name of the title. And they hear someone calling out from inside the grass, and she runs in, and then they're trapped in the grass. And so they find other people, and they try doing these different things, and she's pregnant, and there's a giant rock, and there's all these things, but it turns into like a time loop story. Which, like we've talked about before, big fans of time travel. So anytime that happens, I'm in. But it's a nice simple, short movie.
I'm gonna look it up.
It's a 90-minute film. Perfect movie,
nice.
Right? 90 minutes.
Yes. Bring those back.
Mm-hmm.
Whoops. In the Grass. Oh, yeah, and I'm ashamed to say that I didn't know that he had a son that wrote until I did this, compiled this kind of Stephen King stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, Netflix, okay. Never heard of it.
Yeah, that's the thing with Stephen King is there's so many stories out there, right?
Yeah.
Over 50 of them have been adapted into some sort of media between 70s and now. You've got all these different things, just little tiny short stories that can be made into feature films.
Yeah. I'm looking at 1922 because it was in. If you like this, you'll love this too. Yeah, I think or kind of those places are good for Stephen King stuff because, like you just said, he has a lot of stuff that you can just take. He also has this. It's called the Dollar Club. Did I ever tell you about this?
Mm-hmm.
Where for like $1, there's a list of short stories that you can pick from, and then for $1, you have to send them an actual dollar, and you get the rights for it, and then you can make a short. And there's a lot of stipulations too that what you can and can't do with it. But one of them is, and Mr. King himself would love to see your finished project, so send him a copy. And so I did that for one of his short stories called One for the Road, and and I guess I'll just slip into what I want to talk about next, which is Salem's Lot, which is one of my faves. I think it's one of my favorites. So anything to do with Salem's Lot, I'm kind of, I don't know, huge fan of. But yeah, for those who don't know, Salem's Lot, it's just about Stephen King's kind of version of Dracula. I guess the story is that he was teaching. He was a teacher. He was teaching this to his history class, Dracula, one year, and his wife told him, what would happen if he came into a small town in Maine, and so that kind of got him rolling with it, and it's very detailed, and like we were talking about earlier, it's a very slow burn because he has to set up this small town in order to kind of destroy it. So everything is really, everything is really kind of described down to the T, but it's really good story. It's kind of, let's see. It's just like this ordinary town, ordinary people versus evil, ancient, old evil, and has this house as kind of the center spot that kind of attracts all this evil. It's had had a mirror series in '79, which got remade a couple times, or I think once, and then there's kind of been a couple reiterations of a movie, and they just missed the mark. They're just too short. And that's the thing about his books is that not only can they be really wordy, but they can really be there's a lot packed into it. There's a lot of character development. There's a lot of things that thematically or cinematically that if you try to do this, you have to include those little things in order for the payoffs to be that much bigger. And I think that that's what a lot of remakes miss. Like there was one last year, last October, the HBO Max came out with a movie, and it was like they just cut out the beginning and they cut out the end. They redid the end, and they like the remake of Exorcist. It's like they cut out all the important stuff just to try and give you jump scares and this and that and the other thing, and you're missing the whole point of why it's so good in terms of the horror. Because again, it's Stephen King, so it's usually about good versus evil, and then this one, it's like what attracts evil, and what is it that the small town kind of was attractive to this old evil, So, yeah, that's one of my favorites, man. And if you haven't read it, anyone who hasn't read it, I recommend you pick it up and read it. BBC did this audio drama, and they did it in 3 hours, and it's excellent. That's how you kind of, there's some stuff you have to cut out of this. There's a child abuse in the book, and that I've tried to adapt it into a streaming series, and I'm always, should I leave this in? It's just pretty brutal, So there's things in there that you have to cut out, but. So I don't know. Have you read it? I've asked you before, but I can't remember.
No, I haven't.
Okay.
And I've only seen the original probably twice in my life. Once when I was younger, and then once maybe, I don't know, 15 years ago.
You went to Ferndale, though.
We
was
did.
It last year?
Ferndale's pretty close to where we live here in Sonoma County.
Yeah.
And it's not a long drive, and everything's pretty much still there. The cemetery gates, and you can find, there's plenty of YouTube videos where people have done all the filming locations. You can see all that stuff, and they filmed a lot of stuff there. A lot of Contagion, I think, was the other one filmed there, and the Majestic, right, with Jim Carrey. It's also the hometown of Guy Fieri. So
really, he's from there.
Yeah, he calls Ferndale his hometown. So vampires and queso on everything. So. That's what you get.
What do you got next, man? What do you want to talk about next?
Let's throw out the non-typical King that is kind of on everyone's best of list. Let's talk Shawshank.
Oh,
Shawshank Redemption. Like I don't know anybody that does not like Shawshank Redemption, that does not look at it and hold it in a positive light. Maybe people that have read the book and are like, oh, it's not exactly the same. There's always going to be those types of people that can't separate the two. But as far as the adaptation goes, it's a beautiful movie. It's well acted. You've got lots of good people in it, and
I think a lot of that is Frank. I mean, obviously it's Stephen King, but a lot of that is Frank Darabont too. I think he is a master at kind of taking what's written and presenting that in a cinematic sense. And I think he's done it with, his big thing is characters. So he did this, he did The Mist, which I'm sure we'll be talking about as well. And he also did The Walking Dead, the first I think 2 seasons of The Walking Dead. And those were the two, I feel like those are the two of my favorite seasons of it, obviously. But he just has this really cool way of presenting, or kind of, presenting the characters in the Stephen King book. I'm sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, go for it. It's because we're going to tie into Darabont with him doing the other stuff, with him doing Shawshank and then The Green Mile, right?
Yeah, The Green Mile. That's a late bloomer. I feel like that was kind of in the same tier as Shawshank, and again, you have Frank Darabont doing that, and again, very touching. There's some criminals on death row involved here. And he makes them, what's the word? He makes them, help me out here, old man brain.
He makes
relatable.
There you go.
Relatable, I suppose. Or he makes you empathetic for them. I guess, is that the word? I don't know how you say that word. But anyways, so, he has this kind of talent to kind of pull out the soul of whatever Stephen King's writing about and present it so beautifully on on the screen. So yeah, those are two great movies.
Yeah, when they can take who you're supposed to hate and make you root for them,
Yeah,
that's always a superpower when it comes to writing and film making, because that's tough to do.
and that's the goal. You know, whether you write it yourself or whether you're adapting, you have to take, you have to be able to kind of realize what the point is, and then transfer that cinematically. And I think a lot of people miss that point. They think it's, oh, it's this over here, or they want to make it grander in this aspect, and that's fine if you can understand what the themes are about in the original story, and if you can kind of stick with those themes. Yeah, you can change this and change that, but if you miss that and you're doing something else, like, again, sorry, I'm talking about Salem's Lot. It's like, I think a lot of people, they think vampires and they think, oh, we'll make this scary, but the idea of vampires in and of itself isn't really that scary. We've seen it many times. It's how you can kind of incorporate all this other stuff into it. And the same thing with like Rita Hayworth, or that's the name of the book, short story, but it's like the Shawshank Redemption. You know, I haven't read the book or the story, although I should, but I've heard that, and same thing with The Green Mile. I've heard that it's he's able to take the themes of that and successfully transfer over it cinematically. So yeah, those are great stories.
Yeah, well, let's keep on the Darabont train and let's dive into The Mist. The Mist is probably my favorite.
Yeah.
And it's just from the book aspect of it to the film adaptation of it. And we'll get to the ending, but I think a big part of it is the ending. For me, I think that's a big part that draws me back to that movie time and time again and sees it in such a good light. So Frank Darabont, he wanted to remake it or make it for a while, and then after those two previous movies we talked about, he finally got the clout to be able to say, I want to do this now.
Yeah.
And so he gets the chance to do that after the success of those movies. It was a modest budget. It was under $20 million. And he wanted to be, gritty and kind of fast-moving, style, a little claustrophobic feel compared to, other movies. You got Thomas Jane, right? Thomas Jane, great in there. Marcia Gay Harden, Laurie Holden, Toby Jones, William Sadler. You've got a lot of people, kind of like a stock company, right? He's got all these people that he likes to work with, and he's like, yeah, we'll just pull them in and they'll play a different role. And you see a lot of that with now on Netflix with, Flanagan?
With, Mike Flanagan, yeah.
You see that there, it's pulling in the same people to play different roles.
Yeah.
Which I love, because the director and writer gets to know them, they get to know each other, work off each other, and I love when movies can do that.
And it's also great because you see you can see either the depth or the limitations of an actor, because then you can kind of see, oh, he can do this as well. He does. And Mike Flanagan, I think he likes to, instead of using older or younger, he likes to take the actor and age him up or age him down or whatever accordingly, whatever the story says. And it's really kind of weird, off-putting when you first see it. I don't want to make this about Mike Flanagan, but it's like in Midnight Mass, it's like you see all these actors, and I'm like, there's something weird about these actors. Like, there's some of them are just fine, and others look like they're wearing masks or they're doing something with the face, and then you realize, oh, he's aging them up so they can de-age later. So yeah, I mean. Sorry, I digress. Sorry.
No, totally fine. It's all about getting that kind of troupe together, and a group of people working on the movie, and then a lot of them go on to Walking Dead, right?
Yeah.
So when he's on there, he pulls them into that. It's mostly CGI. It's some practical effects, the fog, the smoke, the mist that's coming out. Like that's real, but the monsters are CGI for the very most part. And his preferred version of it was black and white. And you can see it on the DVD or the Blu-ray. You can see it in black and white.
That's what I've heard,
the old school horror tone. The ending completely, changed from the book. Stephen King said he loved the ending of the movie, that he wishes he had thought of it himself.
Yeah.
It's such a gut punch. There's other movies that have kind of gut punches like that, but this one just eats at you. So if you haven't seen The Mist, skip ahead, 2 or 3 minutes, because we're going to talk the ending here, and you'll be doing yourself a disservice if you don't pause the podcast, go watch it, jump forward 5 or 10 minutes. We won't be offended.
Yeah.
But it's so the book ending, it's they drive away from the mist, there's no real closure, they hear a radio broadcast that leaves a little bit of thread of hope there, right? And that it's haunting, but it's not definitive. It's just kind of, they go off and they hear this this broadcast, and you assume that they're going to find that. And do they get there? Do they not? That's up to the reader. The movie, they're the father and son, and the friends he's made along the way. They're leaving in his car. They run out of gas. There's no hope. The mist is all around them. They have nothing around them. And so Thomas Jane shoots everybody in the car, including his son. And then he just lets out this guttural scream, right? You've just done this horrible thing out of trying to give people some peace so that they're not ripped to shreds by going out into the mist or starving to death sitting in a car. And he steps outside ready to just let the beasts take him. And the army comes by with flamethrowers, saving the day. The people that he saw earlier are being taken by in trucks. If he had just waited another 2 minutes, everything would have been fine. And it's such a gut punch.
It's a really dark and bleak ending. And it took me by surprise. I thought that's how the short story ended as well. And I thought, oh, man, I got to read this. And then when I read it and it did like that, I was just like, oh. And then I read that Stephen King loved it and wish that he would. Is that what you just said? Like he wish he would.
Yeah, he's like, I wish I wrote that. I wish I thought of that ending.
That's and another thing that I wanted to talk about too, not to take away from the ending because I want to keep talking about it, but the way that it's filmed too. He took Frank Darabont took the documentary or took the crew from The Shield, that TV show The Shield, and used that for that documentary type of feel, and you could really feel it with the camera movement and everything too. But yeah, that ending is it kind of put me off the movie. You know, like when I watch it now, I can watch the end if I'm in that mood. Sometimes I'll watch it up until they go out to the car and they get into the car and there's that spider on the hood and everything. But sometimes I can't watch the ending just because I don't want that feeling of like, you feel it too when he screams, like you feel it, man.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a few other times where people have let screams out in movies that live with me deep. That's one of them. When Han gets shot and Chewbacca goes,
yeah,
that gets me in Force Awakens. Sean Gunn's response to the Ravagers showing up in Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Yeah,
and he's just so excited. He lets out this yell, this guttural yell. Those things just have stayed with me.
Yeah, that was again, Frank Darabont. He reminds me a lot of David Fincher in the sense of that these guys are perfectionists. They need to have their set the way they need it. You know, David Fincher he'll do 100 takes of a scene just to get it right. Just, you know, and then in take 80, everybody thinks it's right, and he'll walk behind and just move like a coffee cup over an inch. Go, all right, we're going again. You know, just, I feel like I've never seen him work. I've seen David Fincher work, but I haven't never seen Frank Darabont work. But I have this feeling that it's kind of the same thing. Maybe not a million takes, but the way that his films kind of hit you, that it just seems like everything is in place to do that, right? Mm-hmm. So like you'll watch The Green Mile, The Mist, whatever it is, The Shawshank. The story is told in such a perfect way that it hits it pushes all the buttons and everything. There's nothing left really to kind of film, or I mean there may be deleted scenes here and there, but it just the way his finished product always looks, it just looks like he dotted every I and crossed every T, you know. So yeah,
and it's a great story on the page to begin with, right?
Yeah,
he accentuated it and didn't kind of change it very much. He just highlighted things that were important and made them stand out more. It's you know, the Mist, the book and the movie, it hides the movie monsters, you know, but it shines a light on the human ones, which is always a great story when it's like there's this bigger thing going on outside, but it's really the humans that are the monsters. It's sure you got those giant tentacle creatures, spider monsters, but it's really terror coming from watching your neighbors turn into a mob led by religious fanaticism in this instance.
And that's what Stephen King's, you know, Mo is usually it's this monsters outside or whatever it is. It could be a monster that moves into town, or it could be whatever it is. It ends up being this good versus evil, and the evil that resides in all of us, right? This kind of thing that we think about, but we don't really act on, but it's in there. And I think that Stephen King really does a good job in his stories to kind of highlight this, especially with this. It's the religious religious kind of fever or whatever.
Fanaticism, yeah.
Fanaticism. That's what
Fanaticism.
I was looking for. Fanaticism.
Yeah, you get so many other stories and books. I mean, we talked about The Stand, but like Under the Dome.
Yeah.
For a newer one, it exposes how quickly fear can turn ordinary people into something more terrifying than any creature.
Yeah, or Needful Things. I haven't read that one, but I've read about it. So yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Have you read Needful Things?
I have not.
Yeah, Toby was just telling me a couple weeks ago to read it because we were doing The Stand. Yeah. Yeah. Great. What else do we got here? Do we have time for maybe another?
Yeah, go for it.
So let me get back to my list here. Okay, here we go. Did we talk about it? Pet Sematary?
No, we haven't really talked about them.
It for me was kind of the adaptation, anyways, because I said like I hadn't finished the story. I read most of it, but it for me, it was kind of this child. It's kind of like Stand By Me meets The Shining, in some ways. The I think it was 90 miniseries with John Ritter. That scared me. Even though I watch it now, it still kind of scares me a little bit, or creeps me out. It doesn't scare me, but it just gives me the heebie-jeebies. But that was one of my favorite books, anyways. Did you ever read? I don't know if I asked you this, but did you ever read that book?
I've done the audiobook. I haven't read the
audiobook's
book.
Amazing. I did the audiobook too.
Yeah, audiobook is great.
Yeah.
It's so good. Steven Weber, right?
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's one of my faves. It kind of, again, it's kind of about this Pennywise the clown, this old entity that's older than Earth itself and feeds on fear, right? But it also highlights kind of what, when you're grown up, kind of what is ignored, and what how people can turn the other way and not recognize horror or evil when they see it. At least that's what I got out of it. And they had a 1990s miniseries and then a 2017 and 19 film, which I thought were really good. Did you ever see those films?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I remember at least the first one had a lot of cool jump scares. Like, jump scares cool to me when you don't expect them. Like nowadays, I think a lot of horror movies, when you watch them, they're like, okay, jump scare is going to come out here, and there it is. Okay, cool. Woo! This one I really had some legitimate where you're not expecting it, and it's just like, just wow. I mean, even in the movie theater, I was like, whoa. Oh man, and there's a lot of people doing that, so that was pretty fun.
Yeah, it's so ingrained in society now.
Yeah,
right. Like before, it was a book, and there was that special, but it died for a long time. Right, it was just out of the ether, and then when they made the remake movies, it just came back up, and by that point, there was this huge, because of the internet, you can find your kin anywhere for whatever you're into, good or bad.
Yeah.
And the horror community just was blessed by the internet to find each other and to be able to hold on to these things, these red balloons, and just make them rise from the sewer, and just make it even just a big juggernaut.
Yeah, I mean, I think, it gave the success of these two movies was the reason why they wanted to do a Salem's Lot remake, and because it was the same writer as Salem's Lot as this is Salem's Lot, and some guy that did the Conjuring movies, I think, directed the Salem's Lot remake. And talk about it, I think it has a lot of these kind of Jesus. Do you see that? That's weird.
No.
Anyways, it has a lot of these themes that translate well on screen if you know what the themes of the books are, right? And I think that is what's missing in Salem's Lot. Again, sorry, I'm talking about Salem's Lot, but it's one of my favorites. But I think that's these films plus Salem's Lot is an example of how to do it right versus how to do it wrong. So, yeah.
Just side question for you about it before we move on to any other movies. I've got a theory for you.
Sure.
Monsters Inc. is secretly part of the It universe. All right, so hear me out.
I've
Both
never
worlds
seen
run on
Monsters,
this.
Inc.
They run. You haven't seen Monsters Inc. ever? Oh my gosh! So, Monsters Inc. is these monsters live in Monstropolis, a conveniently named town, and the way they get power is from children's screams. And so they have doors that lead to every kid's bedroom. And they come out at night, they scare the kids, the scream gets put into a canister, and it goes back. So they're basically, energy workers, PG&E workers. And so Sully, who's the John Goodman one, the big blue one, comes out and he's the lead scarer. He scares the crap out of kids and gets the most energy, and the lead producer. And so they come through the door and then go back out. And when the door's not on this little pod, it's just a normal door. It would just open and close. There'd be nothing there. But when you put it on this pod, it leads you to the kid's room. Right? So Pennywise feeds on fear because it salts the meat. Yeah. Right? And then they're feeding off the fear because it powers their town. Same exact mechanics, just one's PG and one's nightmare fuel. Right?
I never knew that.
Yeah, and the doors they use, that's multiverse portals. Right?
Right.
Like that. That's Pennywise, just the guy who quit Monsters Inc. He said, "Forget the union."
Went rogue.
Forget the scream tanks. I'm going freelance, and he just starts scaring people on his own.
I never put those two together, and I know the monsters of the monsters. I know I've seen the big eyeball was Billy Crystal, but I just never saw the movie. So yeah, when did that come out? Like in the 90s, right?
Yeah, it was one of the earlier Pixar ones. It was right after Toy Story.
Okay, yeah. Well,
so my little side tangent there. That they could be the same.
Hey, something to think about. Awesome.
Any other ones we didn't touch on here?
Pet Sematary. Did you like that one?
Yeah, I like Pet Sematary. I even liked some people didn't like the remake of it, but I feel like there was a place for it.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet, but I want to.
Yeah, and then they made a sequel to that.
Oh, they did?
Which was kind of going back in time. To like the Fred Gwynn character, like when he was younger.
Wow. Oh, okay.
So that was fine.
Is that
too.
Bloodlines?
Yeah, that's Bloodlines.
Okay.
I'm fine with when they do that and they add on to the universe of things.
Yeah.
You got to give them a chance to do it. It can't be all clutching your pearls and be like, but my original.
Right.
You got to be open to it. Yeah, your original's still there. No one's taking that from you.
Yeah.
Let them play in the sandbox a little bit. Let them maybe give you, maybe they're going to pull up a cat turd from that sandbox, but maybe they're going to actually make a nice little castle out of it. You go, hey, look at that castle. I like it.
There's a prequel, again, sorry, Salem's Lot, but there's a prequel to Salem's Lot, and I think it's either in, what's that monkey one? Monkey Crew? Skeleton Crew. I think it's in that, and it's called Jerusalem's Lot, and it goes back to like the 1700s or 1800s somewhere, or 1600s, I don't know. It goes back a long time. But it shows you that what becomes the Marston House used to be like a church, and it kind of shows you how the evil was born. And it's told like Dracula, so it's told in these journal entries from one of from the minister's, like the sidekick, I forget what his name is, and the actual like priest or minister that they had for the church, and so they're telling their story in these journal entries. And I would love to incorporate that into my adaptation into Salem's Lot, which you can have an episode where it kind of calls back to that. But I heard that and AMC did a series. They just named it different, but it was called, let me see if I could find it, but they used that as the source material, and they made let me see, Salem's But they use that as kind of they I can't find it now. I don't want to use up the time that we have to look for it. But AMC did a series like a 1-season series about it. So I want to look that up and watch it. And it has Adrian Brody, I think he's in it, and so I want to check that out. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I think it's cool when they go back and they do like a prequel of sorts to this like source material stuff and kind of mine it for some good stuff. And sometimes, like you say, sometimes it doesn't work, but I'm all for trying, So yeah.
Yeah. Worst thing comes, you watch it once, you've got 90 minutes of your life gone. Like that's it. Best case scenario, you're like, hey, that added on to something that I loved. Great.
Yeah.
It's like, finding a mate and then they have a really cool brother or sister that gets added into your family, or your brother or sister-in-law is a total douche and you're like, that didn't work out.
Well, I think, for me it was Midnight Mass is a good example. It introduced me to Mike Flanagan. After that, I went down the rabbit hole and watched The Haunting of Hill House, and then I watched the was it Bly Manor? Is the other one. I like his movies. I like Midnight Mass. I think that one was a hit. The other stuff, it's hit or miss for me. I feel like it's hit or miss. He's like, again, what we're saying, he uses the same kind of actors in these stories. And I think that for that, I think it kind of, I don't know, it's just hit or miss. I think, especially The Haunting of Hill House, I liked when they were actually in the house. But all the other stuff was kind of, I don't know. But what were we talking about? Pet Sematary, that's right. So yeah, I mean, I think I want to check out that Bloodlines one, and I want to see the remake too. So yeah.
Yeah, the remake was fine. They tweaked it a little bit. They changed it just enough that it was different than the original to kind of entice you a little bit. So it wasn't just Control C, Control V.
Right.
And it was worth seeing.
Yeah.
The original, though, is great. The original is class. Fred Gwynne is a big part of that, I think. His portrayal of the neighbor is just so good.
Yeah, and the way he dies, too, is kind of like, it makes your Achilles hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, and you see Miko Hughes in all those 80s movies, but that's one of the cementing ones for him. Other than saying boys have a penis, girls have a vagina in Kindergarten Cop, this is No Fair is the other thing that you think of when you think of him as a little child actor.
Yeah.
Fair.
Well, I always think of, too, the daughter, too, when she wakes up is like, what does she say? She's like, when she wakes up from her dream, the way she acts that is just so funny and kid-like, I suppose. Do you know what I'm talking about? That when she wakes up and she's like, I had a dream, and Victor, I can't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, so good stuff.
Yeah, there's so many Stephen Kings out there, so many adaptations, so.
I would love to see, I would love the audience to like tell us their favorite Stephen King and why, because like you said, there's just a lot. There's so much to kind of pull from.
Yeah, some people are gonna like the more fancy, Shawshank type stuff. That's less fear and horror.
Mm-hmm.
And then other people are gonna like, no, I like the horror stuff. Give me that stuff. At the end of the day, that's the magic of Stephen King on screen, right? Whether it's a prestige drama that wins Oscars, a cult horror flick with a killer clown, or even some half-baked TV miniseries with rubber spiders. His stories stick with us because they hit something deeper. They're not just about monsters and ghosts. They're about people, how fragile, hopeful, downright terrifying we can all be. And that's why decades later we're still watching, rewatching, and arguing about them. If nothing else, he gave us a universe where the horror never really ends, it just changes shape.
Yeah, definitely. That's good. I like that.
So let us know. What did we touch on that you're like, oh yeah, that was spot on, and what didn't we talk about? There's plenty of Stephen King adaptations and books out there. The Long Walk is coming out this weekend as of the recording of this, which kind of sparked this because I'm excited to see that. I remember working in a call center, and between calls I'd just sit there and read. And The Long Walk was one of those books that I picked up from Barnes & Noble because I was like, oh, this is short. I can pick it up and put it down throughout the day. And I remember enjoying that along with like The Running Man. We didn't talk about The Running Man, which has
yes
a retake coming out
Yeah.
this fall.
That's a Richard Bachman. Bachman?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, one.
So we didn't even talk about that. Are you excited for that? Well, let us know. Let us know down in the comments. There's lots of Stephen King out there for you to love or for you to hate, and we want to hear all about it. Tell us in our socials. Hit us up on Insta. Hit us up on YouTube. Wherever you want. Send us a carrier pigeon. We'll find it somehow. We're pretty sly like that. But until next time, this is whatever this is called. We'll see you on the other side, I guess.
Sure.
Bye,
Yes,
everybody.
that's good. Bye.